Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, from the onset, allow me to thank the Honorable Engineer Muriuki Karue, the father of CDF, for having reflected on the dynamics of the Kenyan politics, both immediately after independence, after the advent of multipartyism, and before the promulgation of the current constitution. Madam Speaker, for those of us who are in Parliament, at that particular time when the government used to be here, there were three things that used to dominate the flow of the House. A member of the bank bench will ask a question to a senior minister on a development project in his constituency. And the answer used to be, these projects will be funded when funds are available. And I want you to note, when funds are available. That is the first thing that motivated Engineer Karue. Remember that particular time also, our politics, as usual, was tribal, regional, and with all its characteristics. And meaning, therefore, when you are on the other side of the government, development was highly politicized. And therefore, the Honorable Engineer Karue decided to politicize development in its entirety. That's why he brought CDF. And greatly, I'm privileged to have represented two constituencies, the larger Wajir West and the last constituency. But before even I go that, the third component that criticized the 8th Parliament and before was also Parliament was an appendage of the executive. So we had three things, and I want to tell colleagues who are new to the House. Remove the Parliament from the ambit of the executive, bring it to within the domain of members of Parliament themselves. We succeeded in forming PSC. That was the first attempt. The second attempt was to erase that phrase of funds. These projects will be done when funds are available. We brought that aspect to the members themselves through CDF. And the third thing, Madam Speaker, was to set ourselves, the truth shall set us free, to allow ourselves, members of Parliament who have been demeaned at that particular time. You know the history? Every Thursday, members used to congregate somewhere, and you know the corners. That has also been removed. I want to tell you today, this is your time, and I want to thank also the Honorable Otene Amolo, the Honorable Chepkonga, and all other great brains who have persistently pushed for this constitutional amendment. Madam Speaker, every parliament has its own history. You know it, you have been around now, this is your third term. The history of this parliament will be judged by the passage of this constitutional amendment. If we don't pass this, and I will tell you, Madam Speaker, there are caucuses who have contributed hundreds of millions to fight these amendments. And I want members to hear this. There are caucuses that have contributed tens of millions to fight four things. To fight equalization, they have succeeded. Equalization is no more. And even those of us who fought for the inclusion of that particular clause today, we are ashamed. 12, 13 years after the promulgation of the current constitution, there is nothing tangible that we can say is a product of equalization in our regions. The second bit, Madam Speaker, out of ignorance, they have decided to fight NCDF. And I'm glad that Honorable Amolo has alluded to this. I want to ask them wherever they are. NCDF is not going to get even a fraction of the devolved funds. It's going to get, the allocation is already provided, the formula is already provided for. The third thing that they have done, they are against the empowerment of our county MPs, the NGAF. What is more important than empowering our county MPs? They represent consensus, and the framers of the current constitution were not fools to have special seats for our ladies. Those who are fighting the enactment of this are, remember, they are fighting the majority of the Kenyan voters who are the women. The third thing, Madam Speaker, is to create an illegal niche for one of the houses. That doesn't, it will only come. I am a fervent supporter of the Senate. But we must also support and believe in the constitutional role of each of the houses. We shall not allow anybody to demean the role of the National Assembly, just like we will not allow anybody to demean the role of the Senate. That is constitutionally enshrined. Madam Speaker, the other piece that we must also understand is why did we move, in the governance history of this country, we have had different stages of attempting to decentralize development. When you decentralize development, Madam Speaker, there are a number of things that come to the fore. One, we have political decentralization. We also have administrative decentralization. We have the DOs and this. In the politics, we also have the counties. But we have economic decentralization, Madam Speaker. And this is one area that also CDF also comes in. And what is the essence of this, Madam Speaker? Is to do away with something called disintermediation. Meaning, therefore, the different layers, and you can see the level of corruption, the level of incompetence, the level of bureaucracies, to remove that intermediation, Mr. Speaker, so that the CDF funds go direct from the national coffers to the constituency. And that spurs development, that brings about equity, that brings about development.